for the ridiculous support for the book. The weekend was, I mean, quite candidly, it was just way beyond anything anyone had expected of us, and that created some problems that I'm handling separately from this. But the good news is there are a few places left you can get it. It is extremely hard to get the book right now, but one of the places you can get it immediately is from the link that I have posted and pinned to the top of my Twitter page at ESPN Greeny. Okay, now we went through the end of the NBA season. And I want to ask you guys your opinion, because for all the joking around that I do about the members of the hashtag Gru, I like you guys, and you guys are all smart and good sports fans, and I have to make what I think is a very difficult decision. So the NBA gives bonuses to players, not even bonuses, but like their max contracts and all that kind of stuff is tied to whether or not they make all NBA teams, first team, second team, third team. And I have to vote on those. And so here's what I have decided. My ballot is due at the end of the day. I'm going to vote for Joel Embiid for MVP. It was a tough choice. I heard a lot. I went through numbers. My nephew and I actually were breaking down numbers like crazy. He was arguing for Jokic. I feel it, particularly with the way the season ended, I feel good about going for Embiid. I'm going for Embiid. I'm voting Embiid number 1 for MVP. Having said that, it would seem that if Embiid is my number 1 choice for MVP, then he should be the center, first-team All-NBA center. That's easy. Then comes my second decision. I believe Nikola Jokic deserves to be a first-team All-NBA player. And I actually am able, like the way you vote on these things is with a drop-down menu. I can vote for him as a forward. Now, he obviously isn't a forward. But I can vote for him, which will put him on the first-team All-NBA, along with Giannis and Luka Doncic and Jason Tatum. That would be my preferred first-team All-NBA. I believe those are the 5 players who deserve to be first-team All-NBA if we were doing this positionlessly. But by doing that, I want to tell you what then winds up happening. I then wind up having to put another center on the third team, which is to say if my first team center is Embiid, my second team center is Jokic, then my third team center could be Anthony Davis, who I believe deserves that. And now other people can have, there's 4 spots available on that team. If I put Jokic on the first team, I bump Anthony Davis up to the second team. I have to put another center on my third team, and that might wind up being a player that I believe is less deserving than someone who's going to get left off. So for the sake of discussion, that could mean in my ballot that Jaylen Brown doesn't wind up making the third team, which I strongly believe he does. If you're asking me whether Jaren Jackson Jr., who could be my choice for third team center, or Jaylen Brown should be on an All-NBA team, I want to put Jaylen Brown there. And the way to do that is to move Nikola Jokic down. But if I do that, then Nikola Jokic just had one of the greatest seasons of all time, and I'm not voting for him on my first-team All-NBA ballot. This is a conundrum. I don't have any guidance on how anyone wants me to do this. Let me go around the hashtag crew. What should I do?
I think you should prioritize first-team All-NBA, which means Nikola Jokic, even though he played 100% of his minutes at center this season, should be on it. You believe that he was the second or third best player in the league.
I do. I voted him second for MVP.
And let's be honest, the way that we do positions in the NBA now is totally archaic. He finished third in the league in assists, okay? He can be where we can put him wherever we want. And if you put Jaren Jackson on the third team instead of Jaylen Brown, to me, that is a less significant sin, if you will, than putting Nikola Jokic, the second or third best player in the NBA, on your second team All-NBA.
Except that it's costing someone money.
Regardless.
Like someone not being in that spot is actually being impacted by this in their contract, and I'm very cognizant of that. Bubba, what should I do?
How many guards can you put on there?
Well, again,
what's the limit?
The guard seems to be, technically there are 6 guards, 2 on each team. First, second, and third teams. But they kind of let you fudge it. So, for
Yeah,
example,
that's what I was just wondering. Yeah.
like Jason Tatum, I'm able to put Jason Tatum in as a guard, which I don't think
Right.
he technically is, but he is a guard on my first team All-NBA. So I have everything filled out. I just haven't hit send.
Yeah, I mean, my initial inclination was bump him to the second team because you stick with, hey, look, Embiid was first, so he's got to go second. But I do kind of agree with Hembo saying the positions are not really that rigid what they used to be. Everyone kind of moves around, plays different spots. So Jokic first team, he's first team.
And I'll set it up again for those of you who are just joining us here at the top of a new hour, that I have something of a conundrum. But I just thought of something else because I just heard Doug Brown mentioning the the play-in games which are set up. Let me ask you guys a question you might not be expecting me to ask. There are 4 players who, to me, are locks to be first-team All-NBA, despite my conundrum here with Jokic. And I'll explain that for those of you just joining us in a moment. But if we were just doing this by the 5 best players in the NBA, then to me, 4 of them are easy, in no order. Embiid, Giannis, Jokic, and Tatum. Those 4 guys are clearly first-team NBA. Does anyone disagree? Hembo, I mean, is there anyone you could even make an argument for ahead of any of the 4 of them?
No, not ahead of those 4.
Right. I mean, the positions we can quibble over, and that's what we've been talking about, because they will let me vote for Jokic as a forward, and that complicates the matter. But I'll come back to that. The 5th spot, I was debating between 2 people. Now, I filled out my ballot the other day, but I'm not hitting send. I wanted to wait until it ended. And the way it ended, the Mavericks missed the play-in, and the Thunder got there. I am currently planning on voting for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander on the second team and Luka Doncic on the first team. I think Luka Doncic is one of the 5 best players in the NBA, and my inclination is to vote for him as a first-team All-NBA player. I don't know how much attention people have paid to the season Shai Gilgeous-Alexander has had, because the Thunder are not a team of which anything was expected, and unless they're really spectacular, they don't get very much, if any, attention on the national scene. They quietly had a very good year considering what their expectations were, and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander had an unbelievable year, up to and including the fact that on Hembo's trivia question today on Get Up, he pointed out that Shai Gilgeous-Alexander had more 30-point games this year than anyone in the league. He was first, and Luka was second. Should I give any consideration to putting Shai Gilgeous? He's on my second team. Should I consider putting him on the first team instead of Luka based on the way that all ended?
You definitely should consider it. This kid just averaged 31 points on 51% shooting for a team we thought coming into the season without Chet Holmgren, their superstar pick out of Gonzaga that didn't play a minute, right? This team was going to be tanking for Victor Wembanyama. Like, that's what we all thought. This team's in the play-in. They don't even have a center. He had an unbelievably great season for a team for whom we had no expectations. Juxtapose that with the fact that the Mavericks not only limped to the finish line, but Luka Doncic plays defense so badly that it's almost embarrassing to watch on TV. And the body language stuff, doesn't look in shape right now to me. Like, there are a lot of things about Luka this year that didn't sit right with me. If you want to say penalize him and put him on your second team All-NBA in favor of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, you could definitely justify it. Definitely could justify that decision.
Bubba, I mean, I don't want to vote for a player on reputation, right? So Luka reputationally is what he is, but I don't want that to be the reason. I'm really thinking about this now. Bubba, could I consider taking Luka off my first team, putting him on the second team, and putting Shai Gilgeous-Alexander on the first team?
Yeah, I think you got to go SGA based on what Hembo just said. How good he's been, what he's done for his team, the limits the team had. I mean, he's carried the team, and like you just said, the trivia question today, he's been unbelievable. And I think not only do you have to consider, I think you have to do it.
He's led a team that overachieved like crazy, and Luka leads a team that underachieved like crazy.
SGA was so good this year that they couldn't tank like they wanted to, right? Whereas in Dallas's case, they went all in at the trade deadline for Kyrie Irving, and look where that landed them. I mean, the juxtaposition between the two, to me, at minimum, would be a tiebreaker if you're close. I think a month ago, it would have been obvious Luka deserves a spot. He just had the best offensive season of his career. But there's a lot more. There's more than one way to skin a cat. It got really ugly in Dallas, and I think he was part of the problem by the end. He's obviously a brilliant player. He doesn't play a lick of defense. I didn't like the way that he like. That's not a situation that any great player should allow. To lose that many games in a row, to tank that badly on defense, to humiliate your organization in that manner, I wasn't into it at all.
Cam, what do you think?
I think keep Luka there. I mean, he still averaged like 32, 9, and 8. It's not like it's just on reputation alone.
No, he's awesome.
He had a great season.
Like your default is just to say, sure, yeah, of course, Luka.
Right.
I mean, that's the easy place to go back to.
But relative to
I didn't even think of this until the trivia question this morning, to be completely honest with you. Go ahead.
But let's think about their circumstances, right? Just for reputation aside, everything aside, just what happened. Which player had a better year based upon the circumstances in which they were in? Which player had a better year? Their numbers are fairly close.
I mean, you could make an argument SGA had a better player.
You easily could.
Had a better year. And well, I don't know. So then let me go to the rest of this here. So, all right, here are some other tough decisions that I had to make. Assuming you were all comfortable, let's say this. Assuming that we agree the first 3 guards, we got to put 6 guards on this team. First team, second team, third team. And again, for those of you just joining us, I am a voter for these awards, and I'm throwing this open to the group because I want to make sure I'm getting this right. I took a lot of time filling out this ballot. By the end of this day, I have to hit send, and I want to make sure I'm getting this right. Let's just say that we think the first 3 guards are Luka, SGA, and Jason Tatum. They allow me to vote Tatum as a guard, and I'm going to do it. He's clearly first team All-NBA. Of that, there is no question. I wanted to put Giannis and Nikola Jokic and Embiid on the first team. So that's the first 3. Now I've got 3 spots left. Are those 3 players, let's forget about the order for a minute, are the next 3 players Steph Curry, Ja Morant, and Damian Lillard? Because I can talk myself out of all 3 of them for a variety of reasons. Steph missed so many games. Lillard missed a bunch of games, and they closed it down at the end of the year.
For the reason he missed those games. Honestly, I think the way that they shut down Damian Lillard the last 2 weeks in Portland was kind of embarrassing with the supposed calf injury. Look, maybe it's a real thing. It looks like a phantom thing to me. I think that Ja Morant was the most outstanding of those 3 players.
Bubba, what do you think? Are those the right 3 guys? Who would I be leaving off?
Yeah, I mean, I like you said, with Curry playing less than 60 games,
yeah,
that's tough.
It's hard. It's really hard, and they've given us the 65 game threshold.
That's
starting next year.
For next year, we know that's going to be the threshold, but it's not for this year.
And I couldn't think of anyone that I felt deserved it over him. Like Jaylen Brown is the other one, but this will enable me to make Jaylen Brown a forward, which he is not, obviously. But I'm able to put him on anyway.
You're hung up on the positions a lot more than I would be.
Well, just because that's what they have on here. Like, you have to vote based on that. But on the drop-down, like, for example, I couldn't vote Jaylen Brown as a center if I wanted to. Like, they don't let you do that.
Right, that makes sense.
It's not even a question of the names either appear on the drop-down or not. The first thing I do is I check and see, is this name here, is this name here, is this name here?
Yeah.
So those names come up there. So my first team would be Jokic, Giannis, Embiid, Doncic, and Tatum.
You sure about Doncic?
Okay, well, so again, I could change it, but based upon this is what I had. My second team would be Anthony Davis, Steph, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. You ready for this one? Kevin Durant. I looked at it. When he played, his teams never lost in either place, and he was playing great defense. He missed so many games that it's ridiculous, but I couldn't decide who I felt had a better season than him, and then Domantas Sabonis of Sacramento, who very quietly had the best season that no one talks about at all.
Yeah, Durant's teams went 34-13 in games
when
in which
he played. Now, again, if you add that up, it's less than 50 games. I get it.
Right.
I mean, he missed half the season. But I don't know who else to put ahead of him. Like, who am I putting ahead of him? Who was a better player than him that played markedly more games? To me, if you played 53 or 47, the difference isn't that big. If you gave me someone who played 76 games and was close to him, I would listen to that.
Yeah, I get it.
But I don't have anybody to bump him for.
I get it.
Bubba, am I forgetting someone? Who should be ahead of him?
Where do you have LeBron in all this?
Third team.
Third team.
So I have LeBron, third team, with Jaylen Brown, Ja Morant, Dame, and Jaren Jackson Jr. And that's the complicated part of this, is that I had to put Jackson there based on putting Embiid on the first team. Because you have to put someone who they will let you vote for as a center.
I mean, I feel like you can make a case for LeBron second, Durant third team.
You want me to put LeBron ahead of him?
It's not the worst
Especially
idea.
given what they did, that final push at the end there. He played more games than Durant, too.
How many more games did LeBron play than Durant?
So KD played 47 games. LeBron played 55 games.
So it's 8 games. That's not nothing.
That's not nothing. That's not nothing.
So we like Durant to put LeBron on the second team and Durant on the third?
I would have no objection with that.
I mean, you have the degree to which I agonize over this. I mean, folks, if you have any idea how much it bothers me that I might get any of this slightly wrong, because it's the first time I've ever gotten to vote. Well, last year was, and I just love doing it, and I really want to make sure I get it right.
Just because we rifled through a lot of names, I want to make sure that I didn't miss if you said Donovan Mitchell. Did you say Donovan Mitchell?
Donovan Mitchell is the one who would be left out because we're putting Damian Lillard ahead of him. Does Donovan Mitchell belong ahead of Damian Lillard?
They had a really good year, and he's the single biggest reason why. He played 68 games, averaged 28 points, scored 40 points, more times than LeBron ever did in
Look at Lillard's
Cleveland.
numbers.
Lillard's numbers are great.
Lillard's numbers are out of freaking
So he
control.
averaged. Well, first of all, he only played 58 games, so 10
Right.
fewer than Mitchell, but he averaged 32 points.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN Plus.